Hey, what's up, you guys? WWE Fan 0599 here again, and today we're going to review Predator 2. So, Predator 2 stars Danny Glover and Gary Busey, and what this film is about. It's about when there's something that's killing off these gang members and, drug dealers, and the police are trying to figure out what this thing is that just randomly just keeps on killing these gang members and drug dealers, and they come to find out that it's an alien, and it is the Predator himself. So, what did I think of Predator 2? Arnold didn't come back to star in it, or John McTiernan did not come back to direct it. So that should have already been a red flag. That should have been already a red flag that this wasn't going to be good, and guess what? It wasn't. This movie's pretty awful. It really is. This movie is terrible. Predator 2 is an awful, awful movie. So, let's get into my positives, because I do have a few positives with the film. First being, Dan Glover, I really enjoyed him in the movie. He was the only character I cared about in the movie. He did a really good job in the film, although it did feel, I will admit, it did feel a little bit out of place that he was kind of the main star of the film. I will admit, it did feel like, it was kind of out of place, I don't know, it just didn't feel like Danny Glover should have been the main character of the film, should not been like the main star of the movie. Not saying Danny Glover's like a bad actor or anything, but it just felt a little bit out of place to me. I don't know why, but it did. But I still really enjoyed him in the movie. I still think Danny Glover did a really good job in the film. And like I said, it was the only character I cared about. The Predator's still a great villain. I still think the Predator was really good, as the villain in the film. He was still a great villain. Still really enjoyed him. So yeah. And finally, the directing with the movie. The directing was actually really good. I actually really liked the directing with the film. And that's where my positives end for Predator 2. Now, the negatives that I do have with Predator 2 are, first being, the acting and the characters. The acting is not good. It really isn't. The acting is not good in this movie. And probably this is my biggest problem. I didn't care for a lot of the characters in this movie. Like I said, Danny Glover was the only character I cared about. All the other characters were just expendable to me. They really were. Like, the rest of Danny Glover's police team, I could care less about them. They just weren't interesting characters, and they just didn't feel like, people. They just felt like cartoons. They really did, and I just didn't really care for them as characters, to be completely honest. So yeah, just expendable to me, really. And Gary Busey. Now, Gary Busey really isn't the greatest of actors. I don't want to say he's a terrible actor, but he's not the greatest of actors either. But I've liked him in movies like Lethal Weapon or Point Break. But here in this movie, it just, I don't know what he's doing. Like, he's just given such a robotic performance, it feels like. And Gary Busey just really wasn't that great in this film. The action is very underwhelming in this movie. Like, there was not a single action scene that I liked in this movie. It's not badly filmed or anything. It's just, it's so underwhelming. Especially a final battle that happens towards the end of this movie. Like, it drags on forever. It really does. It drags on forever in this movie. This final battle that happens. I won't spoil it, of course, just in case if you haven't seen this movie, but there's a final battle in this movie that just drags on forever. It felt like it was never going to end. So yeah, just the action felt very, very underwhelming in this movie. I didn't feel as much suspense as like I did in the original movie. You know what I mean? There just wasn't that much suspense, I felt like, in this film, like what the original did. I felt like they were just trying to make more of just a straight-up action movie in this one, and they kind of really fell flat on that. The writing's very atrocious with this movie. The writing is really, really, really bad with this movie. I thought this movie had some really, really bad writing. Oh, the effects. Oh my goodness. They look even worse in this movie. Now, my only problem with the original was the effects. The effects looked really bad. In this movie, they just make it even worse. Like, I don't know how they did, but they made it look even worse, and the effects just look really terrible, and I think the effects look really, really bad in this movie. And lastly, man, the pacing with this movie is so boring. It really is. The movie is very, very boring. I was really bored throughout this entire film. And you know, the action is supposed to excite me, but it's just underwhelming, like I said earlier. And I just felt like this movie was really, really slow, and I just could not wait for it to end. So, Predator 2 overall is not a good sequel. It's a pretty terrible sequel, actually. Predator 2 is awful. So, it's time for my official grade on Predator 2, and my official grade on Predator 2 is a D+. Like I said, this is an awful sequel, and they definitely did not do a good job with this movie. I did not enjoy Predator 2. It definitely deserves a D+. So, what did you guys think of Predator 2? Leave in the comment section below. I'm WWE Fan 0599, and we'll see you all tomorrow for my review for Predators. Peace.